Paku Hang, and welcome to another Sunday night discussion about politics in the Hmong community. I'm joined this evening by my co-host, DFL Senate District 67 Chair Harry Tao, and State Representative for House District 67B, Jay Sheng. Now, as many of you already know, Terry, Jay, and I started this monthly show during the 2020 election to combat political disinformation that was being spewed into our community. The goal of this show then and now is to build a vibrant and resilient political consciousness. And we think one of the best ways to do this is by exploring important issues in our community to better understand them. According to the 2020 census, the Hmong American population in Minnesota was about 90,000, making Hmong people the largest Asian American population in the state. And as a result of the Hmong community's engagement in politics from Chua Lee and Neil Tao back in the 1990s to now, where we have 9 state legislatures in the Minnesota legislature. They include people like Ethan Chang, Fong He, Gao Li He, Fu Li, Liz Lee, Susan Fa, Jay Sheng, Thu Sheng, and Samantha Vang. And of this cadre, 4 of our 9 Hmong Americans legislators also chair major committees. As chairs, they set the agenda for what issues will be heard and what bills would be voted on. We've invited some of them to our show tonight to share what exactly is happening at the state capitol. We have here tonight State Representative Gao Li Vang He. She represents House District 64A, and she also chairs the Pension Commission. We also have here State Representative Fu Li, who represents House District 59A, and he chairs the Capital Investment Committee. We then have State Representative Samantha Vang, who represents House District 38B, and she chairs the Agricultural Finance and Policy Committee. And finally, someone who is also moderator, but in this capacity tonight, he is State Representative Jay Sheng, who represents, like I said before, House District 67B, who's also the chair of the Workforce Development Finance Committee. So welcome, everybody, and thanks for joining us tonight. I thought what I could do is we could start off by just asking, since each of you are chair, could you just introduce us to yourself, but also tell us a little bit about what your committee does and what does it mean to be chair? How did you get it? What are your responsibilities? Should we start off with Gao Li?
Thanks, Paku. Yeah, I can start off. So I'm the chair of what we call the Legislative Commission on Pensions and Retirement. And that is a commission, but it runs like a committee does. And so we meet regularly like other committees do. We get a budget, we, hear bills, and then we, operate very similarly. The Legislative Commission, so we call it the LCPR, we actually oversee all of the state's pensions policy. And so I would say that the state is probably one of the largest, government is probably one of the largest employers. And so all teachers' pensions, all corrections, police, firefighters, all of their pensions come into the state pension plan, and we have over $50 billion in assets. And so not only do we actually manage the plans and also ensure that they stay funded, but the State Investment Board reports into the pension plan as pension commission as well. And so we actually oversee the investments of those pension funds.
Wonderful. Thank you, Representative He. And Representative Lee, Fu Li, you chair one of the most powerful committees in the state legislature. How did you get to become the chair of the Capital Investment Committee, and what is the Capital Investment Committee?
Thank you for the question, Paku. The Capital Investment Committee, we deal mostly with the bricks and mortars. If you think about roads, bridges, public infrastructure in the state. For me and how I got to this point, I serve on the committee for over 3 terms now. First as the vice chair and the last 2 cycles as chair, and never really would have thought that I would, be participating in this committee. But this is a great opportunity for all of us to travel the state to look at requests from local units of government, from local communities about how we can invest in the physical infrastructure that it's important for their communities. And I have served on this committee with Representative Vang before and with Representative Zhang before, and so hopefully Representative He will join us pretty soon in the next few years. And so, I think just to put it simply, when you think about the bricks and mortars, roads, bridges, and infrastructure, that's the type of work that we deal with in this committee.
Yeah, and just really quickly, just like what Representative He was saying, that her committee really deals with like pension and state employees. When it comes to capital, the brick and mortar projects, are they mostly state projects, or can they be, from regular people in Minnesota asking you guys for money?
Yeah, I think that's a good follow-up. And traditionally, for us, we only deal with public infrastructure. The state constitution allow us to borrow money against the state debt to really invest in, not just state assets, but also, locally owned assets. And it's over the last few years that we actually started investing in, community projects from community-based organizations. But, in order for us to do so, we had to look at whether we have general fund cash to do that. And so I think that's the distinction that I want to make, that traditionally, we have really dealt with public infrastructure that's owned by, government entities, but now, we are starting to branch off a little bit to supporting community-based organizations.
Great. Thank you, Representative Lee. Hi, Representative Vang. Thank you so much for joining us. And you are chair of the Agriculture, Finance, and Policy Committee. I think people just know it as the AG. And oftentimes I think when people think about AG, especially AG in Minnesota, they think mostly white people in rural, communities. And here you are, a woman of color in a really urban setting. What does the Agriculture Committee do? And what do you think your lived experiences has shaped how you run that committee and what issues get heard?
Thank you. 我找你请教被多的朋友听. So 我有时面的话也 chair the agriculture committee. So basically 我了解哦，我了解，我了解，我了解，Suli, hosting Minnesota, we're a farm state. So we're a top nation producer of turkeys. Then, shoot tao sugar or ni bo ni shi, or jo monana, from Belusing, Minnesota. So we are a top producer of many of our commodities from corn, soybean, the sugar beet, and so on. So, Hondo Gude Findalde Yoning non so Gushek, but though Yaituni, am I a farmer? Yatuni Olio Daydona. Short answer, they no, would you? That she Gu Yin Poto Hatia, Bay Mon Yoho, sing Minnesota, though Gito the Shona, Bay Ying Bay Mu your Joe, the farmer's market low, you think though you big your monk, or provide the food or your Joe model, Bay no, the Jena. So cú sa khí kho cú tổ lúc chơi nó vì để cú sa khí cho cái đồ bé hay ni mong có nếu mua cho cái và mình rủ họ cho cái ô liu tế na vì để it's a foundational economy in the state of Minnesota. It's the basic building blocks of our food, of our fuel economy, of energy, and so I think I see it as an opportunity for mon do ya le haining lo gong and contribute to the economy of the state.
Thank you so much, Representative Vang. And then, like I said before, normally he is a moderator with us, but today we also have Representative Shong, who is the chair of the Workforce Development and Finance Committee. And I feel like that's a committee that's really important because that committee deals with economic development. And so Representative Shong, can you tell us a little bit more about, in addition to economic development, like what exactly does workforce development mean and what kind of issues do you all deal with in your committee?
我Thank you. 我觉得是的，去做你有 capital. 我哋能得嘅股神同阿比亚做，但是呢，你保护你嘅 committees 的有空正经有得知，但是呢 So Representative Goldie her kaba anti-virus 的 pensions 有正经的俾有年金红的钱啊，以前啲就不去保了去保了 pensions 就kaba 安提拜啊。
So, oh boy, kind of difficult to explain. Pensions, it's an investment. And then có nhà cho phai cho trao có khó, là có thể có share cho tax, cái benefits, like the health insurance the shima mỗi có share thì cái trao có pensions, so that áp lực có tăng có sự cho chỉ xong là whichever one age the plan says you can retire, they có chủ tao có cho nhà đó lu bank có thật có chủ nè, and so ha Jema, I think that bây giờ mong những chỉ bảo to pensions đào ha bên mỗi có cái bên mỗi nhà cho mỗi invest cho bên self whole defined contribution plan, so cho nên mà có mỗi invest cóแต่ชิมาcó pension plan có mỗi nhà cho state the state invest cho có state ha cho cóแต่bênนู้นก็ retire the state เลยมามั่วก็ calculation base อันก็ต้องยันบอกเลยจังฮะก็อยู่ retire เท่ารู้ age ตัวน่ะ and so ในพthể cả nhà cho có anh cho nó cứ có bụi bẩn hình của sông nè, and so cả nhà pension nó change hiện nó khó để thầu bây giờ là bây giờ này cứ bây giờ bố看到cho giờ lúc gì nhỏ hiện tại khi mà giờ bố mà họ lựa nó khó chơi tới giờ bố tao nhà đào lựa tại khi mà bây giờ state để bé hà được bố ta giờ bố họ lựa cho bé bố lựa thay này cứ được bé lúc state để giờ bố chỉ tao nhà đào bảo là giờ bố một nhà được company là bây giờ thể pension cho bố thọ bên nó cứ bố retire nè, so ý nhà change hiện so giờ có giờ ít tụi này cứ nhớ hồ lúc state ở Minnesota nó in any district you have a pension plan, or giờ có họ lựa cho any police department, fire department, correction, any state agency là cái gì mới có pension plan, so còn là ý nhà change hiện đó có bên mong bên bao ta trả nhà yên nhung hàng ha nó chỉ là kỹ hoặc trả non trả hậu là kỹ là để bây giờ chúng mới có instrument có tool của bank bé của bên nó bé chịu hậu là bây giờ muốn nhà nó and nó ý nhà change nhà nó thì ý là social security ha pension thì có mỗi nhà họ cho ý kia thì sẽ có tụi một cháu nó thảo con là.
Yeah.
Is that helpful?
Yeah, no, thank you. Ka ati bara shira. Chitalinda, what are the issues that shina the hoka lu committee that you got bought that shira to kera ka the pensions na or what there's what that meant pensions.
So có cái bên nó draw champ là ta shima your teachers pensions. So bây giờ này ku boy, it's a little bit complicated to explain, but bây giờ này ku ở hậu lử to hàng cho bộ cho sang đó, bên ngoài có tier 1 hay tier 2, so your tier 2 có pension chỉ dùng bảo là có tier 1 pension, so但是呢，每个 tier 2 teachers na kun da you to get boy you retire half us retire 都可看到你呢应用型，and so 不上过呗，安今年个不每个 pension 个 sharp 了个不没但是呢，so 被人到清旁来letter 哈สุดตรงนั้นเป็นอย่างไรครู across the state ก็บอกadvocate ก็บอกตอนยันสิแต่ที่โชว์nóเป็นยังมัวดาวเล่นก็ตัวhạt the capital แต่พอสั่งตอนยันเป็นจะ corrections สั่งตอนยันสิเป็นจะ firefighters เป็นยังปวดแต่นี่เนาะมัวตำรวจฮะ firefighters เป็นยังว่าหลุดยังแหง and เป็นจะ firefighters พอสั่งก็พอมา increase พอ cost of living adjustment so those are some of the top issues that are coming to us, in addition to increase protection for like more PTSD, like more other types of benefits that you need to help you be able to do your job. We are having those types of bills come through as well for state support for pensions, for help for individuals who are seeking job-related injuries.
Thank you. Trong talana ka jong the chair the Lu caucus who reproductive freedom caucus. Trong talana ka ba the li chao ya ki chai ni show be capital the ya chen cheng cha to trong talana na.
Yeah, của yên sáng ta cho law cái bé pass last year chỉnh chế hàng, especially for bây giờ tôi nên cứ chỉnh một tầm nhỏ na. I think that nó ýอย่างcứจะเป็นมองไปชิทางส่วนดาวฮะแต่ชิมาเป็นconfirmation community คือมันมีอยู่จะจ้องแต่ชิมาเนี่ยเนาะเป็นยังมัวอีจอคือเขาคือ difficult อย่าไปเจอตัวนี้ไปชิญย้อนละเธอคือมันสุดท้ายจะจ้องรู้สึกปังตัวมีย้อนนะ right, and so แต่เท่าเมื่ออีจอคือเขามันมีย้อนละแต่จะหาที่ the right time แล้วยังมัวแต่อย่าง health issues คือพอมัวจะมีย้อนคือพอมันมีย้อนละ they're having issues and that they need to terminate her pregnancy นะ and so จะรอไป pass ไปจัดแก่ใจช่วงทางโน้นก็ปังก็ You can make your own decisions for yourself. And Pro Act, which says that we believe that people should have bodily autonomy and decisions to make for themselves. And then the other is that they repeal is no longer is obsolete. And so and then the other one is that state have access to abortion and reproductive rights care anymore. And so Minnesota healthcare no, and so state and that's how access health reproductive health care in Minnesota. And so
Yeah, 我懂了。So Representative Fuli kapa pataka kaya year do should state bonding, and so they show Jonah the go kapa I think by the gen zin lu mong e kaya ka bonding bonnie no the ka shy the ka show get to chair the do should
Yeah, 我做好跟路之初乡里乡大是那边第 state 边木几年叫了木考话考这考几车考这跳的那好路有路这绕 and so right now 边到ต่อไปเขา process ให้เดี๋ยว乡那边有么边เขาbudget 边有木提考ได้จี and so right now it's the whole process over at the Capitol Shong Talano Bay, they'll travel throughout the state. They must project across the entire state. More from down Minneapolis, or North Minneapolis. Now, they must they have a park system that they want us to upgrade with their facilities. Shong Talo, when we pass big budget, big bill, bay, but all of home, first one, you big SGU, and then all your and so bây project that they invest through the state in mình đâu khó strictly public infrastructure owned by the state at the highway or it could be owned like community members we họ biết rằng là không có ý sẵn thế bây giờ không được.
So and then ka budget do ja bonding na yang dao hang tan up here hyong ta na ne pass picture ha hyong ta shin na how much is being proposed for spending.
Yeah, the show that I know pay pass how budget large up by not how sang Minnesota now for infrastructure for big what che uno all $0.2 billion. Yeah, show no you know pay just side the ship you spend down more ja shin down more ja to state. Yeah, let me be saying like some more Louis who talk about pay here who don't to state representative, state senator. They have the ability to clear the show no. So right now it's an ongoing process. We're still figuring out what's going to be our budget.
The cú nó cú bao nhiêu cái nhà bán nên những chỉ thấy tan cho ít % of your projects bây giờ hiện thấy in đa số nào bây giờ.
Yep, phần đầu công hậu thì cho government là tôi thọn nhiệt thì state they barely up to 50%. Oftentimes we can do more. Đầu chạy in đa chỉ phần đầu bây giờ gọi là mua chỉ cho percent là họ thọ bây mua bây giờ nhiệt thì state cho là một thể nói như tan thọ cho năng thể xây như là họ sang Minnesota. So bây giờ cái tan thọ bây giờ bây sang như là họ Minneapolis nó một thể ít họ project nó sẽ được lưu cái tan thọ bây giờ có được lưu lại mua lại cho làm bây sang mua nhiệt cho một thể xử lý đó bây giờ năng nhau họ thông thành họ sang Minnesota nó so that's why they một họ requirement hay là ít họ project nó lại chỉ tao mua li at least in that cho một ba là họ project.
Yeah, Representative Fuli. Okay, Representative Samantha Veng, I think by the committee. That she young I think to be mong the issue cheng be ba should because of the participation is the cannabis management or weed legalization. So it's the what was the bill passed, and then I think by yata they know the should have the village chia là mua ít chia là yang dù là đâu sẽ được nào.
Yeah, so cho cái mua sản á thì trong đà nó thì thổ biết cho tôi cho ôi cho chia bù ninh ya li hồ tàu thia mua tàu sa so trong biết thổ nu yi linh du vật thi ở uphanding của bên á thì nu cho giờ thì có giấy tôi nên gọi ý xong cho số về trong phủ là biểu cho cho chạy biểu bút chạy đồ ý tôi nên gọi ý xong cho số tổ tàu thiê sĩ tàu sao hồ tàu sao nè tức là chỉ bút cha ở pound ở sa tổ的 J this here chỉ bung cả ở cha all ounce of just mù tờ trong nè mù in public or in transit thế giờ thì có sa cho sa về thì có vài cái chế về政府就不过cho chỉ cha gì cho sa nhỏ có vài cái chế giờ thì có nhỏ lúc chế sau thì tu chú chế nếu mua phèn rồi nếu mua chai rồi chỉ不过好sa thế so nhưng mua đâu ya lấy ở đó chỉ khó chính chính thì chỉ nu ý định nu vật thi nó xong ta là nó thì cái in hậu đầu sa thế cái in hậu đầu sa thì bắt thì chế mà你得个有那个英雄的时候，好，所以这给我抹杀呢。这给我抹杀的正知道出事的上车咯的当地咯路头路在大家少多的了嘛，你做一代嘛做 application 都做宁拉罗呢，我什么啥嘛你个了哈apply 木头都带 license，这里木头啥，也看到的你知道。tờ cho lúc ở đâu chỉ đâu khi ta xin nói thì cho lúc cái số thì giờ đến đây muốn đâu lúc website the office of cannabis website thì lấy một cái application khi thọ cho lúc cái ni một apply đó nên thì đâu có license thì như lấy chỉ một đó số link tụ thế là một đó shop cho có license đó bảo mình đó là có lấy chỉ cho một đó số tụ cho lấy một cái thọ cho cái license cap na thọ cho thì ok tao bảo đi nó license rồi thì là chịu một license gì đó thì họ thọ lực khi họ application process thì lợi dụng một đó cho social equity applicants ở đây nè thì họ chọn cái bây cho thì bây giờ the social equity applicants thì như họ chọn cái bây họ hay thì họ chọn nên我比这的头乌了，他妈中 day，了嘛中 day 了是了都有考 felony or record or misdemeanor or petty misdemeanor of 么这个么啥呀，后因后啥诶了嘛中更过呢，第一的了好啥么 apply 么依来 business license 么啥了政府也补到了 on day 咗。the other social equity applicants like Suli emerging farmers so yeah they có giấy tu ninh đủ hậu phần đầu yeah có giấy tu ninh đủ hậu rồi giấy tu ninh lùa và có有cho xà nó có cho xà mua thì có sao ấy có business license mua xà thì có yeah thì có giấy tu emerging farmer thì có apply到thế但是像nó thì so not or to prepare for the licensing or the application process ye bây giờ nó chú trình tất cả sĩ thả sẽ để rồi mua có social equity applicants chẳng chạy nhau bảo mình gì đó còn nếu mua còn nếu mình chính thế còn nếu ít nhau more streamlined còn let me be saying what's apply for a business license thế thì dùng như cho đó lỡ thế là đâu là mua apply nè chị so còn đó thì nó có social equity applicant ye bây giờ đã tỏ sĩ thả sẽ有mua bảo lý giá但是看到有可分到current status of 这个家我摸啥
Representative Ving, I know that and Representative Hurd, I know that you're also working on a bill too, but and Representative Lee, if you want to chime in too. I'm just curious, I know that we also on the John Guy cho Guy or Sano, we also more call nhau who lu bang cho yang ta biết cho tốt nên cứ lu hao rồi cho tốt nên cứ tao kinh cứ tao cho chị lu là vì là tăng cha nó chỉ bu tốt nên sĩ cho cha nó biết mới có nhà lu bang hóa rồi nhớ cái tao ít từ farm mà yêu sáng lu cho rồi bố sáng lu mua cái lần nó giờ bố sáng access là sao bố tự cho grants biết mua nó bố muốn sai tao cha bố muốn trả tao cha
Yeah, so I think that resource on the Office of Cannabis website, which yeah the ni sa yeah the ni mun tia ni ha chi bao navigate lo ni mali contact page thea pe mali ba khai do ni thea có mình cha còn nó thea but xử lý yeah the có yeah to small business it có sa pi mo sana get licensed they page on food that we put in $14 million like có bao lan in grants to buy the small business to be able to integrate them or expand in the Mosana.
And I just want to add to that because so you have passed though for legalizing cannabis Lasano that there's still a lot of work being done on the processes, and so that me both the cities have already put in their own local ordinances to sort of help to sort of help direct how sales will occur in those cities. But Hatsule, Representative Jay Shong, access to funding that Shinalu office actually put processes and procedures around how to access, who can access, point systems, and and so I think that there's a lot of work that will still need to be done. And so that Chitao Bichita Moya Representative Vang what do we call it? The licenses, we haven't actually given those out. So with that, get into they should be preparing right now. And so that they are ready when those licenses are ready to be given out and the forms and applications are ready to be scored. And so that's really important for people to know that.
Yeah, especially so that she not yet Beijing she tashe your only yatli gon Johnny was go enter into the cannabis industry na ye yeah de ko ya itun ya ko ya mong lo ko itun ning du ho ka sa get a business license and a call language or zat ya yo be to出许都上大了那你只好干啊，或你xử lý你把起都干啊，thì因为你都被塔贴về để lúc xưa ta xin nói về do lúc xưa chính chính ở bên trên sách sách thả sẽ có ở đây gia đình đây có sau đó ở sang cái tàu có license nó thế.
Yes. Ocho Representative Hood, Representative Vai, ni yeah, the Gopota take Bejan is Mono Jemo to Tulan to doing no so I appreciate breaking down the use and then also what the rules are or the rules yet to be determined about people who want to sell and in the state about the process to get a license. So this is extremely helpful. And now I turn to my co-host, Representative Hyung. There's a new bill this year called the Promise Act. And the bill, especially now because more a lot of younger folks. We have a low unemployment rate in the state, and we're trying to figure out, but we have a lot of young people in our community. And so what are these opportunities so that
Yeah, thank you, Terry. So the Minnesota Promise Act, each big lawmakers, represent her, represent Van Bishop Tàu Pang, Tàu Sông Pang, nên cậu bé nó lù băng cho lăng lùa kỳ nhót cho con phảnh đau giảm một cho tôi lù hầu ha cho lăng lùa cho cái chớp phơ lù chỉ tàu access to cho nhạc giả thọ bên mua lù băng cho lăng lùa cho lù sĩ hạt mua các món COVID mua cờ ha thọ mua cho thế mình nhót con chàng Minneapolis tâm lùa mua từ giờ cái chút tồn tại cho nhà nó thì bé họ mua chế nó ô lù giờ lù ban cho tiền lăng nó chẳng là cái nó ý bộ nên có lắng nhà giờ nhà lù ban ha nhà lù ô lòng tốt xí cho lăng lù cái nhỏ cho sang North Minneapolis South Minneapolis ha cho đến Midway University Avenue lù cho sang East Side nó thì bé sĩ thằng này tên là bé mua cho nhà nó lù cho ở Cộng hòa tôi thao lù chỉ lù khu NDC nó chỉ lù Cộng hòa nó giờ bố giờ lù sai cho nhà grant anh cho lũ bán cho thất sản nó chỉ lũ cứ lũ sai cho nhà cứ bây mua promise loan so chỉ lũ đầu vô mỹ đã rồi bố xin lũ thì lũ bán cho lăng lũ cứ vô sáng giải nhà lũ cho bố lăng lũ nó chỉ ở lũ cùng hồ nó cho nhà nó to họ bố有路我一样嘅，但就一可能當輪到我哋波英倫茶 partnership 就叫功夫米，而家做得成啊，所以佢做嚟俾忙我哋波麼，如功夫忙 American partnership，佢蹲住mind 在 talk 嘅對 president 係時叫按照忙 American partnership 談嘅，我因為 partnership 就 NDC 係邊日都是我哋要令啲下上包。chỉ cho nhà nó là có một apply để trả mà cái phụ tao cho tôi giờ thao cho tông nhờ tàu chi lâu cho chi cho lâu và sự phụ tao thì là cái không càng mà cái sao mẹ muốn gì ở lúc cái công vụ luôn nó chỉ là lúc thứ sáng contact NDC nó mấy phụ tao cho tôi cho tông tàu chi bây sang cho ý sủng tụi nó NDC đó là hữu tao cho media lúc cái sách cả nhà lúc giải nó chỉ số tăng là trâu ý o chi blo ý sủng o chi làm một cho nó có mấy số là bao đó là mà cũng hát thằng những gì sự ta cho nên nó có yêu chủ sau yêu hay lúc lắng nổ lấy càng các thằng lấy hoặc phải tao cả nhà nó chỉ họ biết mất sai nó luôn để biết hạt ta phải nó mà biết sao của lúc lắng nổ giờ 有個就nhà就có tàu lu tu solution nó có tàu sang bộ chỉ cho phẳng tàu lu hú nó kể có什么有lu 我弄的tàu up to 一個 amount nhà lu kiến的chỉ cho phẳng nó lu bán có lu lăng lỗ rồi có giờ lu lăng lỗ cái tàu lấy cái ý xong nhà revenue 一路一个人呢，他讲一波盘的着火，那些ก็สามารถตัวถอดต่อจุลคือหนึ่งของที่ผ่านยาหรือปังก็รู้นานหลอแต่ยาน้อยก็สามารถรู้ปังเทก็จะนุ่งเปรู้ปังเอ่อเอ่อคูก็รู้นานหลอรู้นานหลอต่อสักชื่อเลยยาสามเป้าก็ไม่ขั้นว่ามาใช้ต่อจะรู้ชงมา M and Promise Act ตา org ตัวชีเราชีวิตตัวเป็นของกลาง或者มาค่าตัวก็ไม่ยอมไม่จีตัวไม่ตัวชีvì lấy chàng biết sao ơi nó biết sắp bấy báo họ ta ở tăng của hắn đó họ biết một đó cái ờ, nhỏ sa nó cho lúc chạy của cô về haจะลังหลอกคือชอกเกอร์เนาะbiết báo tại bây giờ tới lúc họจะลังหลอกchoคือdigital access สุดยอดเนาะเยอะ and so biết saoสิโอเขาน้อยลูกปังbiết จะลังหลอกเนาะจะจะกงเนาะก็พอตัวเขาเนี่ยลูกปังเชื่อพอฮะ có bố cho lăng lọ một tàu đó cái bố tài cho lăng lọ nó bố một tàu nó chỉ giống một lá cải rong rồi lục băng gì cũng so có giống mông nó chỉ biết xài ô cho chạy nó rồi bán cho lăng lọ bớt xí giờ lên từ hai sáng bao gì nó là cũng tàu cho bớt xí của sự thông nhật tàu chỉ ở cho lo ó sống y tàu chỉ ở cho lo ó sống y.
Thank
Thank
you so
you,
much.
Yeah, Representative Chung. So real quick before we some are grants, so free money, some are loans, right? Where you can borrow. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. So before you all go, we just had one final question for you all. Last week, Tuesday was precinct caucus night, and then this coming Tuesday is going to be the presidential primary election. And so we're wondering, last week, did you see anything interesting? Did you observe anything interesting at the precinct caucuses? And then what are your thoughts about the upcoming presidential election and the presidential primary? And what do you advise voters to do in terms of like voting next week? So on the again,我就準備就創造準備書堂，估晒我一輪子，上阿啲當嚟咪講冇去 precinct caucus 呢一頭pan Democrat 哈 pan Republican 不但錯冇係講啦， And then nu Tuesday to no be lo jaka mo bomba be mo bomba jo president pound Republican bomba jo bo to ni bo sa wo president jo bo pang ha be the Democrat think this mo bomba jo Joe Biden la think the be sa wo to president jo be pang no e wo sam pa the me jo not ju not ati tan la me mo Peace caucus me bo achi sa la me bo achi da o me ta o ko na yo kha ko ying sa pang zu zi and then me bo mo lu jo ping sing jo nu Tuesday to no to be mo bomba jo the president me bo sa ha chi nhớ từ lên từ xã tế là ôn tê tê
And then I can Kuyi very lucky the Kulu precinct, Kulu district is very has a very high voter turnout. And that Bilu precinct caucus, and there were a lot of people there. But Kulu district more St. Thomas, McAllister, William Mitchell, St. Paul College, and part of Concordia, that the district with McAllister College had a room just full of college students. There probably was about 25 college students who had never joined the caucus process before. And they were very excited to be there and at the future of politics and what it can be with our young people's involvement. And that Boshao resolutions, everything from divestment in fossil fuels in our pensions, which was very timely when I was there, and also about the conflict in Gaza. And so I'm very hopeful that the future of politics, because of young people's involvement, I'm very excited about that. Kusa ko mo mong ha mo pe ja to ning ke ta hot lu ko pe mo more involvement ku pu ja lo mi kat lo to chong te kuma sang ko pe ja mong ha pe ja any by communities of color ko pe more involved in the process no they are the ones who get to shape the agenda for the DFL, and so I hope to see more of that in the future.
Yeah, good. Yeah, good. Representative Shou ha, Representative Vang ha, Representative Lee May Sanacha ha. What about no to to no babe jaka mo pomana me po mo what is your thinking around the presidential election? Representative Lee, what do you think?
Yeah, so I think I'll just add to Kali. I'm really glad that we do have a lot of young people being involved, but it's also a word of caution too. For North Minneapolis, a lot of our neighbors did not show up, and I think that that's going to be very problematic for our party as we head into not just the primary election next week, but the general election, the local presidential election. Yeah, I hope that we can have more how to participate, but at the same time, Democrat I don't think that a lot of our neighbors know that there was the precinct caucuses and that there's going to be a primary on Tuesday. And so I think in the ideal world, Minnesota participate, but we know that we're not there yet, and there's a lot more work to do. And so I am hopeful, moderate on Tuesday. This Tuesday, you move ball for either for the Democrats to be the nominee for Democrats, to nominee for the Republicans, and then for and so I would encourage everybody to go out there and support, our president right now, or because of all the different issues that's going on right now, for them to consider not supporting him. But for me personally, I am supporting the president, and I will hope that everybody else will do so too. And we need to get ready for the big November election coming this year, not just for the presidential race, but for all of us here too. On the ballot too. So I hope that for
Representative Lee, I'm so glad you made that distinction, because I think sometimes people like us, these words are so common for us, but you're right. Tuesday is a presidential primary. So it's, if you're a Democrat, if you're a Republican, you go and vote for the president, the candidate you prefer for your party only. But the real election where Democrats and Republicans will duke it out, you're right, that's on Tuesday. I mean, that's in November. And we have to make sure that everybody goes out and vote. Yeah. Representative Vang and Representative Shou, do you have any thoughts about precinct caucuses or the upcoming presidential election? I mean, last week was really dynamic, and there's a lot of movement around former President Trump, and then a lot of criticism for President Biden. Any thoughts?
I think I just wanted to mention that for most folks, it was the first time for precinct caucus in person since the pandemics, and Terry is also the chair of our Senate district here on the east side, and so I was just very grateful for the turnout, even though it was smaller than usual. But I think we all also know that precinct caucus, the way how it's set up, set up the big precinct more like they both were working, so they had to take a couple hours off of work to show up for precinct caucus to pick a Democrat, and so the good thing was that during the pandemic, I know Terry may may not agree with me, but we went online, we went virtual, and that made the precinct caucus more accessible for Toning. There were some challenges with being online because digital world access made things challenging, but it also provided opportunities for and so I know that we saw likely an equal amount of participation, and Terry can chime in too, perhaps almost equal amount of participation via absentee online folks who submitted their application online, because I know that I got a whole bunch of text messages and emails from folks saying we can't come to precinct caucus, but we'll submit an absentee form online. I know I had at least 30 folks who supported me messaged me that. That said, I was very happy to see people show up, even though so far our Senate district we don't have anything. We didn't have anything any contentious race going on. But just the fact that people made a time and showed up, and meeting in person since the pandemic was um, we also heard from some of our newly elected officials, so especially here on the east side, we have a new city council member. Councilmember Shaniqua Johnson was there. She came in and talked with the focus show and shared with us what she was working on at the city hall. And then we also had Commissioner Mike Kyung, who also made the time to come in, who also lives on the east side, to share with folks what she has been up to and how we can um, engage her office too. And so overall, I know that uh, we there's always discussion about how we can make precinct caucus more accessible and engaging. We're always have a conversation on that. And I also really appreciate Terry and the group of volunteers who showed up and made things smooth. And I think that was one of the most smoothest precinct caucuses since I ran for office in 2018. I remember in 2018 when I ran for office, we didn't really have a chair, and my campaign team was there. We had a table there, and everybody went to my campaign team for where this should be going. But things were different this year, and that's because of the work that Terry and our volunteers did. And so thank you for that.
估计冇見到係，但是係 encourage everybody 搞出的當中their right to vote 又即係我冇 vote 嘅一個我自己行到是一度被成咗好啲同咪㗎啲啦，亦比較耐轉咯，亦比包係啲路係寧都要度幫把到俾，老是要度車俾，亦比較耐轉嘅現在俾到窿俾咯，但是你啲要被成路中，亦就中那個俾我嘅應要做呀我俾我到那時so 對呀你要啲要你好直播把到俾俾出到個 trifecta。也得做俾我知道等於 legislation xử理補助晒藥例如free school lunches or free colleges for students 嗱，也election results 也比較 election results determine the work that we do， so 個時候當中就可一個我自己喺度俾就俾成咗好啲前面嘅啲啦。
我找沒等着。
All right. So, chiro Representative Goldie Hurst, Fuli Samantha Vada, Jehyong Mono, ni tun tun habai tade, ati ba kheshe de yeah, politics, yeah, gili gijai ni shai be chodo or be capital, hyung na in 2024. For the most part, hyung talana be chua shikong because we were really busy, but we know because of the election year and the huge year at the capital last year, we be dakala kaya ati pero shada. Maybe won't be as frequent as we were before, but know that we'll still continue to be in touch. If you have any questions or concerns, there we have our email address that folks can send a message on Facebook here when tonight's show airs, because we're looking for feedback. It's a really important election year. We know the democratic process is when everyone participates and what people make of it. But we're really happy to be back again and on air. So thank you everybody for joining us, and we will be in touch soon. Ocho dao, shiji dong.
Pusau inter so beautiful ขนาดเคยเป็นสาวไฮโซแต่ก่อนก็เคยเป็นสาวบ้าน